Welcome to today's explainer. We're diving straight into an incredibly frustrating yet super common psychological pattern. You know the drill, right? You do literally everything right. You're polite, you're always available, you bend over backwards to avoid even a hint of conflict. You're probably the type of person who apologizes to furniture when you bump into it. Yet somehow, you're the one getting ghosted, you're getting passed over for that promotion, or you're permanently installed in the friend zone. Meanwhile, the people who seem, well, kind of abrasive, they get exactly what they want. It feels totally unfair. You're playing by the rules and you're still losing. But as our source material points out, the problem isn't the world, it's the rules you're playing by. So let's break down the architecture of assertiveness and see why that nice guy mask is actually holding you back.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why do jerks win? Seriously, it's a question that's frustrated polite folks since the dawn of time. Why does society seem to reward bad behavior while completely punishing the people who are just, trying to keep the peace? Well, our sources argue that it's not actually their jerk-like behavior being rewarded. Actually, scratch that. It's not about being mean at all. The people who win are winning because they possess a very specific trait that the quintessential nice guy completely lacks. And to figure out what that trait is, we first have to completely deconstruct what it actually means to be nice.
And our sources point out a pretty uncomfortable truth here. Your niceness is not actually a reflection of your goodness. According to the psychological framework we're unpacking today, it's often just a lack of backbone. In fact, being too nice actually functions as a covert form of social manipulation, and it is quietly destroying your life. Think about it. When you operate strictly from a place of trying to appease absolutely everyone around you, you aren't being selfless. You're actually trying to control how other people perceive you. You're manipulating the reactions by hiding who you really are. To really grasp this, we need to ground this explainer in some psychology. Most people think being a nice guy just means you're a good person, but it's not. In psychology, this highly transactional behavior is known as the covert contract. It's basically a subconscious agreement. It happens when you give someone your time, your energy, or your help, and here's the kicker, you do it with a hidden price tag attached. Your subconscious mind is basically whispering, hey, I'll do this favor for you, so you must love me, respect me, or eventually give me what I want. The fatal flaw with this whole shebang, the other person has literally no idea this contract even exists.
And this brilliantly illustrates a crucial distinction. A truly kind person gives freely, right? The act of giving is the end of the transaction, absolutely no strings attached. But the nice guy gives transactionally. So when the other person inevitably doesn't fulfill their side of an unstated contract they never even signed, the nice guy gets super bitter and resentful. Our sources point out that people have a highly tuned radar for this. They can sense that neediness behind the transactional giving from a mile away. You might think you're being super helpful, but what they actually feel is a demand. And socially or romantically, that underlying neediness is the ultimate attraction killer.
So let's move on to the biological realities of respect. Why do assertive individuals command it? Well, it really comes down to three things. First up, conflict as a filter. Nice guys are terrified of conflict. If someone disrespects them, they just smile and take it. But biologically, to our ancient ape brains, rolling over in the face of disrespect just screams low status. Second, extreme predictability. Look, if you always say yes, your yes has absolutely zero value. Humans are evolutionarily wired to value scarcity. If your time, your opinion, and your validation are just handed out for free to anyone who asks, they become socially worthless. And finally, a lack of boundaries. A person without boundaries is a person without a self. If you don't firmly stand for anything, nobody can stand with you. This brings us to a fascinating, albeit kinda darker pivot in our explainer. We just talked about how the nice guy constantly suppresses his true feelings, swallows his pride, and completely avoids conflict just to keep the peace. But according to the laws of psychology and, honestly, physics, energy doesn't just disappear. If you're constantly biting your tongue and pushing down your true desires, we really have to ask, where does all that suppressed energy actually go?
Well, it doesn't just evaporate. It turns into resentment. This is the dark side of the nice guy that most people totally refuse to admit. Because they're too afraid to be direct and state what they actually want, nice guys are often the most passive-aggressive people in the room. That suppressed energy leaks out in some pretty toxic ways. We're talking guilt trips, deploying the silent treatment, throwing subtle jabs and veiled criticisms. And all of this happens simply because they lack the courage to just be straightforward.
This entire dynamic creates an atmosphere of deep untrustworthiness. Humans crave safety, right? And we feel safe around predictability and honesty. People simply do not feel safe around the dishonest saint. You never really know where you stand with someone who's constantly hiding their true thoughts behind a polite mask. On the flip side, consider the honest jerk. They might be blunt, they might even be a little rude, but they are incredibly direct. You know exactly what they want and exactly what they think of you. In the long run, people would much rather deal with an honest jerk than a dishonest saint, because honesty creates an atmosphere of real trust.
So, how does one actually break out of this cycle? The source material anchors its resolution in a really powerful concept popularized by Dr. Jordan Peterson: a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has his weapons kept sheathed. The goal here isn't to suddenly become a villain or a total bully. No way. The goal is to become dangerous but disciplined. It means developing the internal fortitude and the capability to stand your ground, to possess teeth, but choosing to keep them hidden unless absolutely necessary. You literally cannot be truly moral if you're only acting nice simply because you lack the power to do otherwise.
So, the crucial point is how we actually apply this in real life. The source outlines 3 actionable steps. First, you've got to integrate the shadow. Accept the parts of yourself that aren't perfectly polite. Develop the capacity to comfortably say no, to openly disagree with people, and to confidently walk away from bad deals. Next, you have to kill the people pleaser. Seriously, stop asking the world for permission to exist. Your goals, your mission, and your self-respect absolutely must come before your desire to be liked by everyone. And finally, be authentic, which seamlessly brings us to the core thesis of this entire analysis.
Bringing our earlier thought to its ultimate conclusion, we are not telling you to stop being kind. We're telling you to stop being nice. Kindness is a choice made from a position of power. You're giving because you genuinely want to, without needing a single thing in return. Niceness, on the other hand, that's a reflex made from a position of fear. It's smiling and agreeing because you are terrified of the friction that might pop up if you don't. So the ultimate takeaway from our sources is this: definitely choose kindness, but lose the niceness. The world simply does not reward nice guys. It rewards people of character. It rewards individuals who are honest enough and brave enough to be disliked for who they truly are, rather than loved for some fake mask they're wearing. The very moment you stop trying to mathematically calculate how to please everyone around you, that is the exact moment you start winning the genuine respect you've been chasing your whole life. You just have to choose authenticity over approval. Which brings us to our final, pretty provocative question for you to ponder today. Are you a doormat, just letting people wipe their feet on your polite mask? Or are you a pillar, standing firmly grounded in your own authentic truth? It's time to stop apologizing for taking up space. If this analysis hit home for you and you're finally ready to break the covert contract, drop a 100 in the comments below and share your story with us. Let's break this cycle together. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep pursuing the truth behind human behavior.